what we've been doing, and then what I'll do is just invite each one of you to just come on and give us a bit of an update so that we get a chance to hear from everybody. What has the Chamber been doing since we've been at home for 10 days? Well, we haven't really done much at all, have we? We've all been doing Joe Wick's webinars, and no, I wish it had been as quiet as that. It's been, I'm sure, as busy for you as it's been for us, but for us, it's just been trying to make sense of all the information that's coming out of both governments, try and work out how to get that information to businesses as quickly as possible, and as well as that, try and actually get ourselves working remotely properly, and try and make sure that we are still working with our members and trying to support members as best we possibly can. An obvious thing that we've started to do, like everybody else, is webinars. So as you know, we've got a Tuesday coffee, and I don't know how many of you have got cake that you're enjoying, but coffee and cake on a Tuesday. This week it will be our first Wednesday webinar, and we'll be doing a Wednesday one every week as well. And our Wednesday one is around about well-being and mental health and how people are coping with all of this social distancing and remote working. I certainly know a couple of our team, when we first went home, were like, wow, this is pretty good. I'm getting loads done. It's really quiet. And then by the end of the following week, we're saying, I'm not liking this as much. Plus, the world has gone mad. Social media and the news is pretty horrific. And it's just, we were all just being bombarded. So that Wednesday one is really important because our people really, really need support, whether you're on the front line taking calls about grants at local authorities, or whether you're like us trying to work out what's the best way to support exporters. There's going to be a time where you need to take a step back and focus on your own mental health, or just look out for other people around you that you need to make sure are okay. So that Wednesday one is a really important one. And then on a Thursday, we're doing business support webinars. So we've done a couple of these now, and our first one was about international trade, and we heard from a couple of members about how they have seen their businesses change. And that was really, 2 weeks ago. It seems so long ago now, but it was interesting to hear from them about what they were seeing in terms of movement of goods, but also what the oil industry was doing at that point, and that was long before the price of a barrel of oil went to where it's gone to this week. And then last week we had a webinar with one of our board directors, James, who does a lot of work with China, and that was about learning about China and how China adapted. So it was not about how the virus actually spread, but it was about how businesses adapted. So what strategies did they employ about using technology, and not just like we're doing, but really interesting, clever things about virtual payments and kind of using AI and AR to really revolutionise the services that they did. So that was really interesting. And both of those were recorded and are available on our website for you to have a look at. So, while we can connect with, 20 odd people on a call today, it's just as important for us to make sure that everybody else kind of hears from businesses, and because we're all experiencing a lot of the same things. So that's a practical thing that we've been doing as webinars, but the Chamber has got a COVID-19 hub, which has got loads of information on it. There's a page about business advice, there's a page about health and social distancing. There's also contact details for UK and Scottish governments, as well as DIT. If you're dealing in international trade, then understanding what the Department of International Trade has got in place to support businesses. That's really important. There's also a page on there about recruitment, because there are people that desperately need a workforce at the moment, and so whether it's in the care industry, or whether it's the food producers and the people that have got berries growing at the moment and they just don't want those to go to waste, there's a bunch of people that are looking for staff. There's also information on our website about things like home deliveries, because certainly in that first week, lots and lots of small businesses like restaurants and hotels and others decided that home delivery was the best way for them to try and maintain what they were doing, still kind of look after their customers, but also perform a really, really important service for people that couldn't get out or just wanted to access the kinds of food that they normally would be able to, but from the comfort of your own home. So lots and lots of things going on our website. We also sent out a login for the Chamber HR and legal helpline. So part of Chamber membership is access to a 24-hour advice line, but also lots of information about, there's lots of templates and other things available there. So we made sure that all members had that, and we've been following that up and just all of our team trying to make contact with as many members as possible. Apart from that, we've been also working hard with the local authorities, Business Gateway and Scottish Enterprise and the FSB, just to collate business information. So we're all hearing lots of things about what's going on and what businesses are experiencing, but we need to make sure that the policymakers know this. So we're feeding into government a lot of information, and we're also making sure that when we've got information coming out of government, that we're able to share that. So sometimes the local authorities know things, particularly about the grants and how well the grants are getting out to businesses, but also, if we're hearing that people have been struggling to access that support or are just having all sorts of questions and they can't get them answered, then we're feeding that back into the local authorities. So it's been an incredibly busy week and a half so far, but I would say things seem to be calming down a little bit as we've got more clarity and more guidance comes out. I think businesses are now just in a stage of trying to work out what support they can apply for. They're talking to their local accountants and lawyers and others to get some specialist advice, and are just trying desperately to kind of keep things going while trying to work out who to furlough, who to keep, who can work remotely, and how they're going to make sure that their cash flow stacks up to all of that. So yeah, there's been a lot going on. But what I'm going to do now is just invite you all in kind of one by one, and there's a couple of things we're really interested in. So if you can, just cover these. And the two things, so just to give you slight forewarning, Andrew Gillespie, I'm just going to do this in alphabetical order by first name. So you're top of the list. So I'm hoping you can unmute yourself and come in. But I'm interested in, have you accessed any of the support that's out there? What's your experience of that been? And have you done anything differently in your business as a consequence of the last few weeks? So Andrew, could you unmute yourself if you can? Perfect.
Hello?
Hello, can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, perfect.
Actually, should have also said, introduce yourself, who you are and what your business does, and then give us a bit of a flavour on what's been going on.
Okay, yeah, so for those of you who don't know what Ace Aquatech do, we supply technological solutions to the fish farming industry, marine industries and offshore industries. We essentially provide protection for predator control and systems that make electric stunning of marine species such as fish, make that more efficient and more humane. We also provide other technological systems such as biomass estimation for fish farms. Essentially what we try to do is to encourage these sort of major players and smaller players within the industries to adopt more sustainable, more ethical and working practices using our technologies. In terms of how our business has changed, some of you may have seen something that has been put onto the Chamber website in the last sort of few hours. It was an article that was written up by Fish Farmer magazine about how we have put in place a sort of regional support network using our subcontractors and also adding more subcontractors to our network. One of our major suppliers of equipment is based down in Driffield in East Yorkshire, and with the threat of their supply chain being sort of tightened, and if they may have to close their doors, what we have decided to do is to mitigate that risk by bringing our equipment that we've been held in storage closer to home, essentially. So it's closer to the Highlands and Islands where a lot of the fish farming sites are currently. We've been very fortunate that in the last few weeks we have a new head of operations who's coming from a bigger company, ACFA Group Scotland. So he has been overseeing all of our sort of operational procedures, protocols and processes, and with a view to making them more streamlined, more efficient. So we're super fortunate to have him on board. In terms of in terms of how we've been accessing the website, the chamber website, we've also had a second hire. I should have said we've got a new finance officer. She's coming from Insights, so I've been directing her towards not only the Chamber of Commerce website, but Scottish Enterprise, Business Gateway, etc. for information about tax relief, for other resources such as templates for grant funding. And I need to myself look at a bit of the DIT stuff on your website, because that's important for us for our international trade. We've got a lot of business coming through from Chile, New Zealand, and North America, so it'll be important to see how that's impacted us, or how it might impact us, because I'm in constant communication with our freight partners and other other freight companies for the UK as well. So it's important just to be able to sort of to keep in touch with them on a daily basis, to check that everything is still on track in terms of deliveries. So our expectations are managed correctly, so that we can in turn manage the expectations of the end consignee, the end client. Yeah, I think that's. I don't think there's anything else. We're trying to make it as business as usual, but just operating ever so slightly differently, if that makes sense.
And Andrew, have you guys accessed any of the funding support, or has any of that proved useful, difficult? Any feedback?
Again, in terms of myself accessing, it's largely been me sort of having a look at what's available online and sort of directing other people to that. So I'm not the best place to speak to how well that's been. How well received that's been on our behalf. We've got, as I said, we've got a new finance officer who's just started last week. So onboarding her was also a bit strange. Onboarding someone who doesn't have an office, so everything's done remotely. Yeah, what I should say is that we're doing everything by Microsoft Teams as well, sort of having as many calls as possible in the morning, and sort of doing little team updates, other operations, finance as well through that. But that's something I'd have to sort of speak to our managing director and our sort of finance team about that, how they've been getting on, because that's been on high on her agenda the last couple of weeks, looking at various ways to find access to support.
Yeah. All right, no worries, that's perfect. Thanks so much. Well, and I know I said I was going to do this in alphabetical order, but we've got a little bit of a plea from somebody whose name begins S, and I'm going to skip the queue and go and ask Stuart to go next, if that's okay, because he's got to leave us a bit early. So thanks so much, Andrew. Stuart, can you unmute yourself and give us a bit of an update?
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Great, and listen, thanks very much for letting me go next, even though I'm an S. Thank you. So just in terms of who we are, there is myself and my colleague Karen, who's not with me just now. We work primarily in education, but we also work with other businesses as well to try and encourage people to work better together. So our company is called Cooperative Learning Consultant. So it is a method of learning and teaching, which can also be transferred into meetings that adults can use as well. So as you can well imagine, with most of our business taking place in education, we have struggled in the last few weeks, as many other people have, and with the uncertainty about the coming weeks and months, we envisage continuing to struggle as well. I was very, very fortunate to speak, I don't know if it was with yourself, Alison, or maybe one of your colleagues, just for a bit of guidance about where to access support, and whoever it was I spoke to, and I'm sorry that I've forgotten who it was, directed me to a colleague who works in the Bank of Scotland, We have a government loan called an EFG, and of course we're concerned about being able to pay that loan back. The Bank of Scotland website displays and advertises that they will support businesses with loans of this type. However, although Ian was the best source of support, when I eventually did get through to Bank of Scotland, it took me a day and a half. Wow. So Ian phoned in his own time. He was out walking a dog or something at the time, but he basically gave me the same advice I got when I got through eventually to Bank of Scotland. And I had a lot of mixed, inconsistent messages from them. They said that we would be eligible for a 6-month repayment holiday on our loan. There was a bit of miscommunication in terms of phone numbers and emails being written down wrong, so I phoned back the next day. Thankfully, I got through a bit quicker this time. But the business manager I spoke to then was a different business manager, and she said that capital repayment holiday is not a guarantee. So since then, I have applied on my company's behalf for a coronavirus business interruption loan. So I have submitted that application, which was actually quite a simple, straightforward form. The confirmation email I got back on that unsurprisingly said, thanks for your application, but it may be some time before we get back to you. So the most up-to-date, kind of pertinent support for our business, which we can't do anything about at the moment, is the job retention scheme. And unfortunately, my business falls in that black hole, I think Martin Lewis called it, of being paid by PAYE and dividends. So we would essentially only be eligible for 80% of PAYE earnings. So that's why we kind of made the decision to apply for the CBIL, Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme. So I suppose that's where we're at the moment. I am considering trying to find temporary work at the moment, just to kind of help financially as well as mentally, as well, to keep busy. So I suppose that is a question I have, is that as a director of a company whose main source of income is from that company, you know, how does that impact on me if I go and work somewhere else? You know, if I have to, I know the phrase is furlough. So if I do that in order to earn the PAYE stuff, am I impacting in some way if I go and work elsewhere? And does sending emails and tweeting about my company qualify as generating income? Because I know part of the advice says that if you're furloughed, if you're furloughed, you shouldn't be doing anything that will generate income for your business. So to me, that's a bit ambiguous, but that's maybe my lack of business brain coming into force there. But I suppose that's the question I've got at the moment.
I think it's not. It's just that there's so much information, and actually sometimes something new comes out that slightly changes the guidance or seeks to clarify it, and then you're just not sure either. So what I might do is, so I was going to ask somebody to come in, but I'm conscious of time and I want to get round everybody, but let us pick that off offline. There is somebody on the call that can definitely, I think, answer your question, Jen Stewart from Johnson Carmichael. So I'm not going to bring her in now because we'll I'll keep talking to other people, but we can connect you with Jen and deal with it offline if you have to go, Stuart, before. In fact, I might just do this all out of alphabetical order and ask Jen to come on next and give her update, and then if she's got time, give you any clarification. Jen, is that okay with you?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So hi there, everybody. I'm Jen Stewart, Johnson Carmichael. I head up the team in Dundee, and I'm also a licensed insolvency practitioner. So I do a lot of restructuring work for individuals and businesses that are in financial difficulty. Our team as a whole at the moment, we have a special, again, like most organisations, we've got a COVID hub on our website, which details all of the current help that is available from the government. advice for employers, advice for self-employed, and basically a personal finance section, because we're looking again at individuals and their financial well-being and what assistance do they actually need. So we are seeing a number of clients, obviously, in that kind of vulnerable sector, struggling in terms of retail, hospitality, tourism, and we're assisting our clients, going for the business interruption loans, looking at the grants that are available, responding to queries on furloughed employees and what they can and can't do. We are being strongly guided by our employment law experts on the furlough scheme, and we're working really hand in hand with them. I know that Loretta Maxfield's also on the call, as is Trevor. So I'm going to defer any legal aspects of furloughing to both of them. My understanding, though, is if you are furloughed in any capacity for those contracted hours, you essentially cannot be paid to work for another organisation. You can volunteer or you can do training, but you can't be paid for another job if you're furloughed. So it probably comes down to, well, what is your contract of employment? Do you have one as a director of a limited company? So it's therefore, though, if you are taking any salary from your company, then essentially you will, in my view, you're furloughed if you are still essentially applying for any sort of grant. I mean, or in fact, you won't be able to if it's a recent company. Did you submit a 2019 tax return? Yes. So if you did submit that, and if you are going to essentially apply for any assistance through the from the government through that self-employed, and you are getting paid for that, then you'll have to be very careful in terms of what you do about getting any secondary work unless you volunteer. So that, I guess that's my take on that specific question. But really what we're doing is we are assisting our clients across all areas, helping them with banks. We're doing a lot of cash flow projections and modellings to help them actually secure any funding. But we're also taking a very strategic look at, is the business sustainable in terms of actually looking at can they actually repay any loans that they are getting from the government if they're able to trade through this period? Are they making sure that they're taking all the available options in terms of deferring any VAT payments, so still submitting returns, but making sure they're deferring any payments? The same with any self-assessment. So obviously there's a July payment on accounts that will be due, making sure our clients are aware that can be deferred until January to help assist that cash flow. So it's all about maximising the cash flow into the business and minimising any of the outflows. So that's really what we've been busy on. Is that okay, Alison?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Jen. Much appreciated. Okay, back to my rudimentary going through the list then, back to alphabetical order. Charlotte Watts, you're next, if that's okay. Can you unmute yourself and give us a bit of an update?
Hi, Alison, can you hear me?
Hello, sure can.
Hello. So we obviously work in quite a big company, so we've kicked in our continuity plan quite rapidly. So we've got across the country, we've got, I think, in excess of over 200 employees now working from home, just really trying to support our clients, through this as much as possible. For us, we probably won't see a big impact in terms of business until we kind of see the fallout of our clients and how that affects them, enabling them to continue trading and to the capacity that they perhaps were before. So as I say, at the moment, we're really just making sure cover obviously stays in place and offering as much advice as we possibly can. We've got a lot of clients who are maybe stepping away from what they would normally do as part of their business. We're seeing a lot of gin manufacturers and stuff now sort of providing hand sanitizers and things. So we're just basically making sure that their insurances and stuff are obviously still valid with the changes that they're kind of conducting within their business, and really just providing that sort of business support in terms of of insurance cover. There's been quite a lot documented in the press around how insurance policies will obviously step in. There's not much in the way of actual business interruption that's covered under insurance in terms of pandemics, but I suppose the big question will be probably around things like public and employers' liability. Again, there's some employers that are sort of being perceived as forcing their staff to continue working through, and these are people who are perhaps non-critical. So from our perspective, that does have an impact on things like your employer's liability, because you have a duty of care towards your employees, and if you're perhaps putting them in undue or unnecessary harm, then certainly that would be an issue. We also have financial lines insurances such as directors and officers policies, which may or may not see quite a hike in claims going forward in terms of unfair dismissals and employment practice laws and stuff. So these types of policies will probably soon kick in, but again, we probably won't see too much of that activity until businesses are kind of back up and trading. Similarly to everybody else, we've sort of got a wee hub going with some key information. As you say, there's just so much coming out. It's really difficult sometimes to filter that down as to what's true, what's relevant and what's right. And for us, we're obviously inundated from insurers on their perspectives, and we've kind of got to try and analyse that and take from it what we can. But certainly we just have to take each client as it comes and treat them all completely individually, because not everybody's policies are the same really. So that's kind of where we are.
Brilliant, that's fab, thank you so much. Great, okay, Chris Scott, you're next on the list. Chris, can you unmute yourself and come in and give us an update?
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi Chris.
I've obviously my business is stalled. It's going to be stalled for the next.
Oh Chris, we're not hearing you very well.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
All right.
Not great. So yeah, I think my business is completely stalled at the moment. Probably going to be stalled for the next few months. Weddings been cancelled. Obviously, I can't do anything much about that. What I have been doing though, I've been actively updating the website. I've been making a lot of changes to that. I've been just basically being proactive on my social media, and in the meantime of that, I've been doing some volunteer work with the Dundee Together group. So doing some deliveries of prescriptions, hand sanitisers. So that's pretty much me. I think in regards to the grants and stuff, I have applied for the rates relief grant through Dundee City Council. To be fair, they've actually been really helpful. The guys in the offices there have been quite responsive to phone calls and emails and stuff, even though they've been absolutely inundated, I imagine. Obviously no sign of payment yet, but I think they're coming sort of in the next week or so. So perhaps on the next call there'll be a further update.
Oh, lost you again.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, that's pretty much, yeah. So that's pretty much me really.
Great.
So just like I say, just holding out and hoping that we can pull through the other side, which I think we will. And if not, we'll just need to start again as we've done before. So
yeah. Great. Okay. Thanks so much, Chris. That's brilliant. Emma Moore, can you go next if that's all right?
No problem. Hello. So my name's Emma. I'm community fundraiser for CHAS, Children's Hospices across Scotland. So we've obviously had to change a few things with the way that we've been doing things. So we've actually just launched today what we believe to be the world's first virtual children's hospice. So we're doing a lot of things over video calls. So usually we can allow visits for respite for families, but unfortunately this time we're not going to allow families to go in both for their safety and for their own. So what we're doing is a lot of video calls. So whether that's like the clown doctors maybe doing a video call, or art sessions over video call. We're also doing sort of just friendly phone calls. So we've got a group of volunteers who are phoning families who are maybe a bit more isolated. and just checking in with them, making sure that they've got what they need, helping them source things if they don't. And yeah, just generally checking in a bit more frequently over the phone. We're also supporting NHS care packages at home a bit more. So with the NHS obviously being tied up a lot in hospitals, they're not able to fulfil the care packages for a lot of the families that we work with. So I think what our Chaz at Home teams are doing is making sure that we're able to support that and top them up and make sure that the families are still receiving the care that they need to receive for their children. So our hospices now are just end of life and emergency care only, which is fine. So we're running them at about 2 to 3 families at a time. Usually it's up to 6 or 7 sort of usually, but we're just making sure that we're running at the capacity that we feel comfortable with. And yeah, we've got, I think when it comes to accessing support, obviously I don't know the ins and outs of that bit as I'm a fundraiser, but as far as I'm aware, we're looking into options for reducing our outgoings, because just now fundraising is just not really happening. So we're, with a lot of events being cancelled, both sort of large scale events like your Kilt Walk, Edinburgh Marathon, London Marathon, things like that, those are being postponed, but also sort of more local events are being postponed as well, they're cancelled. So there's not a lot of fundraising going on. So we're looking into finding more virtual ways of doing that. So whether that's building on what we already have. So we have a Geeky T-shirt day on May the 4th, which we have done the past couple of years, seeing how we can adjust that for home workers rather than for site specific places. So we're working on a big virtual fundraiser for that, but then also just looking for suggestions and ways in which other businesses, or we know that it's a difficult time for companies and businesses, but just looking into different ways that we can find some support for our fundraising. So yeah.
Great, thank you very much, that's fab.
No problem.
Jerry Higgins, could you come on and go next?
Yes, I can. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I hear me loud and clear.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm conscious of time, Alison, so I'll be quick. Yeah, my name's Jerry Higgins. I'm with Communicating Culture. I'm sitting here in the global headquarters, which is the spare bedroom. And what I've been doing up to now is helping companies that are looking to go international. So it was interesting to hear about Andrew Gillespie, because what I do is I talk about how the culture of the country that these companies are going into will affect the business and the way they negotiate and communicate and things like that. So that's what I've been doing till about 3 weeks ago, when it all changed. And it all changed in a business sense, because I now find myself working for a cruise company, RCCL, Royal Caribbean. And like you've probably heard that all of the cruise ships in the world have just about stopped operating. But RCCL are kind of taking this opportunity to train their staff. And so there's quite a pressure to get stuff out to them so that they can use this period when the ships are not moving to get their staff trained on all sorts of issues. I've also been learning lots of new things, as you say. I just learned that there is a difference between Joe Wick and John Wick. Apparently, one's a fitness trainer and one is a hitman. So that was a bit of news. So I haven't done anything on sourcing support, but I'll be certainly moving into that, I think, once the RCCL stuff is finished. So that's me.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Okay, Graham Parker, you're up next.
Afternoon.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, so Graham Parker from Condy's Accountants and Advisors. So we've been dealing with a lot of I've been about a lot of phone calls and emails over the past couple of weeks. People trying to access the various types of support that's out there. And I suppose the biggest thing just now is making sure people have the right advice. As you said, Alison, at the very start, there's so much advice out there. And the last thing you want people doing is my mate down the pub, or fictionary pub now, not the real pub anymore, said this, and it's making sure they have the right information because there's so much of it. And I think for us, the biggest thing we're kind of waiting for is hopefully something in relation to directors and shareholders, which again has been touched on, because that's really the big thing that most of our clients will need need that support with. At the moment, obviously, they can get the 80% from their salary, but I think I touched on in the comments that as long as they're carrying out office holder duties, so accounts payroll, the directors can't do any selling, so they can still post on social media, but they can say, hi, we're closed, we're working on bits and bobs in the background, but they can't actually sell anything. So it's that difference. So they're going to struggle to get any work, because apart from that, most of them are working from home, so there's no grants available for that. And in reality, the loan is then the only other option. So probably working kind of open for that, but there's plenty of other stuff that we can help, certainly grants. That's what we've been working on at the moment anyway. And that's
brilliant. Thank you. That's fab. Hilary Roberts, you're next.
Hi everyone. I'm in a bit of a different position in that our Developing the Young Workforce is Scottish Government funded, so we are still essentially business as usual. But for anyone that doesn't know what we do, we are the conduit between business and education. So we are meant to take industry into schools to help inspire young people as to the careers ahead of them. Obviously, there's a couple of issues with that at the moment, with all the schools being shut and all the businesses working from home and with their mind on other things. So we're really at the moment just planning for the future and just looking at our operational plan for the year ahead. But instead of starting it on the 1st of April, we'll be starting it from the new academic year after the summer. So lots of planning and tidying of things and looking at our processes at the moment. But nationally, there's 21 DYW groups all over Scotland, and nationally we're coming together to look at different ways of doing things. So whether that's delivering some of this inspiration activity in an electronic way, in a virtual way, or whatever we can do, we're looking at ideas about that. And longer term, our strategy might change a bit, that instead of just this engagement with schools, we actually take an active role in supporting other agencies in getting young people back into work, or the young people that are just coming out of a school. Essentially, there's a whole cohort of young people who have just left school a term earlier than they thought they were going to. And what do they do now? So there could be a role to play in that and getting young people back in education as the economy recovers. So interesting times for us, just looking at different ways of doing things and how we can help for the greater good, really.
Fab, thanks Hilary, that's brilliant. Okay, John Alexander, can you come in next?
Morning everyone, or good afternoon should I say. Well, I don't really have a business, I suppose, so I'm in a slightly different position, and obviously we've got quite a diverse range of work underway across the council at the moment. I mean, in terms of the scale of what's happening, and obviously it's going to be different for each of us, but the council employs 7,000 people and we've got 1,400 off at this point in time. So clearly, just in terms of trying to continue with business as usual, hugely challenging across all service areas, and very much focused on trying to maintain some of those core service and obviously making sure that we provide things like educational provision, care provision for key workers and vulnerable children, that we're continuing to provide free school meals, so that we're continuing to provide business support, continuing to pick up the bins. So all of that presents us with some significant challenges. And I think specifically in relation to kind of the business community, obviously Alison, we've had a number of discussions as well, and you've been very helpful, as has the Chamber, in terms of some of the inquiries I'm getting. It's fair to say, I think it was good to hear the feedback from Chris in terms of his engagement with the council and how quickly and responsive they were. We've suspended all recovery activity. We are not taking any enforcement action, and what we've done is put more staff into the kind of phone lines and support network for business. So taking them off of chasing people for money and focusing their efforts on trying to get money out and supporting businesses at this time. So we've increased our capacity to make sure there is an ability to kind of react a bit quicker than perhaps ordinarily we would have been. We're trying to turn around those grants in about 10 working days. If we can do that sooner, we will. There is a question mark over in terms of, well, some of the companies accessing that funding. It is in a taxable amount. So again, with the end of the financial year and how that plays out, so there's some question marks over about the practicalities of that, what it means for businesses as well, which we're having discussions with. And I suppose it's just really important to say and acknowledge as well that the kind of feedback and the response from business has been huge and really welcome in terms of supporting other businesses. I think things like this webinar and trying to bring businesses together to support each other at this time is really critical to make sure that businesses survive. But over and above that, the kind of volunteering that we've seen from the private sector in particular has been second to none. So we've got about 400 individuals just from general community who have signed up to help with whether it be deliveries or helping the community in one way, shape or form. But over and above that, we've also had 400 members of the business community who have offered their services, their vans, their manpower to be able to support work across the city. So I think it's really important to kind of thank all them as well, and thank all of you that kind of playing a role in that. I just wanted to kind of dial in to hear a bit of the feedback, because obviously I'm partly involved in the council's response, how we're supporting businesses, but also making sure that I'm feeding in any of that information that's coming from business back into my colleagues in Scottish Government in particular, whether that be Kate Forbes or Fiona Hislop or anybody else, to make sure that we've got some clarity, because there still remains some big questions and some grey areas, as was being mentioned earlier on the call, and there's still some businesses that fall through the cracks in terms of, you know, self-employed, seasonal businesses and newer businesses, and you know, it's a challenge in particular to kind of find a way of supporting them when there isn't actually any government grants available if they don't fit within the kind of boxes that have been set out. So I think that's probably all I want to say, because it's more important that you guys speak and I'm just listening.
Thanks, John. Brilliant. Loretta, you're next.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Hi there. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Loretta and I'm a partner in Thornton's business law team. In terms of how we've been impacted as a firm, well, we do lots of different types of law across various sectors. So like most private organisations, we have been hit. For example, a state agency, nobody wants to move house just now. You know, you don't want viewers going into your house, and likewise, you don't want to be going to see anyone else's house. Registers of Scotland, where you would register your title deeds, have closed. So we actually can't settle any house sales or purchases just now. So that's obviously presenting massive challenges across all legal sectors, and not just Thornton's. Other areas, you know, the courts have basically closed down effectively unless there's very urgent cases. So our litigators are experiencing, you know, quite hard. You know, it's quite hard for them as well. They can't really do their job if the courts are not open. So we have been impacted, you know, quite significantly, like most private organisations. Other areas of the business have increased as a result of this. For example, our employment law teams, insolvency teams, you know, they're seeing an increase in work because of what's going on and all the various help that the government is offering employees, and which our clients are needing some help to just understand and how to implement those in their workforces. In terms of what we've done differently, well, we have become almost a virtual law firm over the course of a few days per week. We've now have over 450 members of staff working from home, which was actually quite a feat from our IT team. I think thankfully we had quite a lot of the infrastructure there, and a lot of the kit, and so it wasn't it was still a massive job, but I think there are a lot of law firms who are struggling and are working on a rota basis, where some staff are still having to go into the office, where luckily most of us are at home. We are we've also got a coronavirus hub on our website, so if anyone is looking for any questions, any answers to questions, you know, there is quite a lot of information on our website. And we're also trying to understand and try and sort of help, do some charitable work, try and help people in this situation, and just figure out, I think our managing partner is involved in trying to figure out how best we can help the community across Scotland to do that. So yeah, that's about it, really.
Brilliant.
Does that cover
you? Yeah, sure does. Thanks so much. Fab. Okay, Steve Smith, can you come in?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, I'm Steve from IT Works. We provide IT support and cybersecurity advice, etc. And to be honest, it's not been hugely difficult for most of our team. If you know me, you've known I've been banging on about business continuity for about a decade now. So if we can do it, then it would look a bit daft on us. But so it basically took us a click of a mouse to divert phones to mobiles, and we were all working from home last Monday afternoon. Different for me, I'm used to lounging about hotel foyers, drinking coffee, speaking to people face to face. So I'm finding the adjustments slightly more difficult than everybody else. But our tech team, our clients were all pretty ready to work from home as well, because we already had their infrastructures in place. Our tickets have went up considerably in March. We dealt with 42% more tickets than an average month. So there was a bit of concern there, people having connectivity issues and so on. But we're through it now. And as far as my job's concerned, I'm basically just trying to build my network and keep in contact with people, so when this all blows over, I'm in a position to start hitting the ground running again. We've not looked at any kind of financial support or anything. Personally, I offered the directors the idea that if they did wish to furlough me because I can't do 90% of my job now, then that wouldn't be a difficult conversation for them, but they said no to that. All the rest of the staff are secure. We've money in the bank, contract customers, so we know that there's money coming in every month, so we're actually not in that bad a situation, to be fair. I do think that we will start in the next week or so, taking in mind furloughed staff with our clients who are involved in the oil and gas supply chain that's now $20 a barrel. We're going to start getting phone calls from clients to say, look, can we look at discounts, deferred payments, contract cancellations, things like that. So that's a bridge we'll have to cross when we come to it, but it's not happened just yet.
Brilliant, thank you. Trevor, do you want to come in next?
Thanks. Hi, I'm Trevor Fenton from Fenton's Commercial Law, and I offer practical help in plain English for small businesses in Scotland and Canada. In particular, an in-house, virtual in-house lawyer service for businesses that are basically don't have the scale to have their own in-house counsel. The effect on my business has been a little bit interesting because I'm in the middle of trying to build a new practice that I started just a little over a year ago. And I'm focusing on not just local business in Tayside, helping supporting business, well, really Scotland wide, but also trying to build trade links between Scotland and Canada. Because I'm qualified as a lawyer in British Columbia as well. And so I see some great opportunities there and was getting lots of traction. And then suddenly, well, obviously the, face-to-face networking isn't happening anymore. And certainly travel's not happening anymore, and just the idea of international trade, I think, is almost in the backs of people's minds unless they're already doing it. On the other hand, the opportunities that come up would be to network with people in Vancouver who were attending meetings that were face-to-face. So there's like a Friday morning breakfast that I would go to in Vancouver when I was over there. Well, obviously I can't attend it if I'm not in Vancouver. Suddenly that's online, and I'm actually able to network with people who are online who wouldn't have been before. So some of the unintended effects. I'm seeing, what's happened to my business. I guess it's just kind of, it's unlikely to grow the way I had intended to. So I'm kind of trying to reinvent the way I reach out and network and so on. And like almost anybody else, I'd be, I'm waiting to see what impact there will be on the ability of my clients to pay. I think as a group of businesses, it's just unavoidable. We're all going to have to rethink how we approach not just cash flow, but how we deal with our clients and with their ability to pay, almost like a sort of a solidarity pact among businesses, just saying, look, I will pay you if I can. And if you can't pay me, I'm going to be very patient and very understanding, because there's just no other, there's no sense in jumping up and down about it, because the situation just is what it is. So, so yeah, it's been kind of interesting. I'm getting a lot of questions from both sides of the Atlantic about the effect on commercial contracts, because that is a significant part of the work that I do. Is I help. So people are wondering, well, I can't get access to this building that I'm supposed to maintain. Does my client still have to pay me? Do I still, you know, what happens in that situation? So lots of people asking about force majeure and you know, which is a term that most people have probably seen in a contract, but never seen, probably never encountered a situation where they'd even seriously think that it might apply. So those kinds of questions are quite common, I would say, among commercial operators out there. And it's just, I mean, let's face it, it's going to be a bit of a mess to clean up for a few years afterwards, trying to figure out who's done what they are supposed to do, and who's, you know, how do we get back up on our feet as in functioning as a society after something like this. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I know. Thanks. That's brilliant, Trevor. Thank you very much. I maybe come in after I've given Wendy a chance to do her update and just talk a little bit about that cash flow piece. But Wendy, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Wendy Motlin. I have a graphic design, marketing, communications business based in Dundee. I'm used to working from home and did it for 15 years while my kids were little. But I took a property in Dundee city centre a couple of years ago with a view to growing the business. And we now have a core team of 3 of us, but we're also working with 4 freelance designers. We've really been focusing the last few weeks on helping our clients either keep going with their business, so helping them either get online, we've had 2 or 3 websites go live over the last few weeks. We've added an e-commerce section to an existing client's website so they can continue trading while their business is closed, and also just helping clients with their social media and marketing strategy, things like that. I think even if businesses are having to close down for a while, we're sort of encouraging them to think about what they need to do so that they can hit the ground running as soon as the lockdown is over. We're also seeing it as an opportunity to sort of brush up on our own skills and see if there's any gaps there that we can sort of take some time to make improvements in our skills there as well. Yeah, we've also got a property in Perth, so as well as the challenge of not having access to our property in Dundee, we've got our Perth staff are also working from home, and that's been disappointing because we've only been in there a few weeks. But anyway, it will be there when we get up and running again. So yeah, we were fortunate to win a new contract a couple of weeks ago, so that's really going to help us over the next few months. But we're also aware, like Trevor said, there's a few of our clients who are going to really struggle over the next few months, and we have to consider sort of their cash flow, what they can afford going forward, how we can defer payments and things like that. So that will be a little bit challenging for our business as well. That's me.
Brilliant, thank you. And so everybody's had a chance to kind of update each other, and I just wanted to just kind of finish by talking a little bit, conscious of time, but a little bit about cash flow. We are beginning to hear both sides of the coin. I've heard of a few people say, you know, in a bit of a panic actually, that some people that owe them money are not paying, and they're just saying we don't know when we can pay it. Some of those are local, but actually some of those are pretty big businesses. So we'd be interested, you don't have to give names, but we'd be interested in hearing about anybody that is having difficulties or is hearing that, because you know, I know that, for example, the local authorities are looking at very quick turnarounds on you know, anybody that they owe. They're looking at things like, can they bring in a 7-day payment instead of normal payment terms? And I think the important message has got to be that, you know, when people can pay, they should. Because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be in desperate need of cash flow while they try and pay, if they're waiting for government their monies to come through. So, you know, just kind of please keep us in the loop on all of that. Please tell everybody about the webinars and the other things that we've got going on. We're always looking to make sure we're helping businesses So if there's anything that somebody else is doing that you think we could be doing, or that we can adopt, or anything that we should stop doing, then please let us know. And I think really that's kind of all from me. I'm going to bring Sarah back in, because she was just going to finish off the call, and I guess let us know what's coming next. So Sarah, could you unmute and come in? Is that all right?
Hello. Yeah, so pretty much as Alison said, we've got these 3 webinars taking place per week. So a Tuesday is our networking coffee and connect, which is obviously this. Wednesday we're looking to support employees across the region. So tomorrow we're hearing from Wendy Callender at Wellbeing Works, and Kev Anderson from the Story Edge speaking about mental health. And then Thursday we'll be joined by the team at Thornton's Law, and also Jen from Johnson Carmichael, speaking about the jobs retention scheme, the business instructor loan scheme, and going into things in a little bit more detail there. So next week, again Tuesday, Coffee and Connect. Wednesday we're looking to host a webinar around motivating your team. So how businesses are currently supporting employees who are having to work from home, who are working remotely. And then Thursday, that kind of business continuity kind of webinar as well. So if there's anybody who wants to speak at any of the webinars, anybody who has other ideas of topics, obviously things are changing quite quickly, and we're obviously wanting to bring the most up-to-date information. So we're not organising these webinars well in advance, because things change so quickly. So if you do have any ideas, any topics, any speakers, etc., that you want to bring in on them, then just drop me an email. I will be putting a survey around afterwards, just to get your kind of opinions on the webinars as they are going at the moment. So if you can grab a couple of minutes just to fill that in, that would be great. That's pretty much all from me. And yep, get yourself signed up to the webinars, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks,
see you
Sarah.
later.
Bye, folks.